The Rewind Sports 60.
Sports 60. From the city of big shoulders, the jewel of the Midwest, comes a sports show that's one of a kind. From iconic players to iconic stadiums to iconic teams, this is my kind of town. Chicago! And the Rewind Sports 60 is my kind of show. From Air Jordan to Sweetness to Papa Bear Hallis, this city works hard, but plays even harder. Danny Carlino and Jerry Riles bring you the Rewind Sports 60. Live. The Rewind Sports 60 starts now.
Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing this wonderful summer evening? Welcome to the Rewind Sports 60, the fastest hour in sports television. We are live on WCPT Studios, 8:20 a.m. Join us on Facebook, the Rewind Sports. So happy to be back, and so much going on in the world of sports this week. So let's get right to it, guys. I want to get right to my esteemed panel. Dan Marvelous, the Marvelous One. How are you? How are things going for you this weekend?
Everything is outstanding. July 1st is Wednesday. It's apparently the month I've been looking forward to because on July 30th, you'll have the Jazz versus the Pelicans and the Clippers meeting the Lakers. And so in Orlando. And not only that, but the Cubs and the Sox and all the teams will be reporting for their spring training number 2 this week, with the season beginning the 23rd of July. So July is the month that I've been waiting for.
So it's really gonna happen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. And
until the next outbreak.
Yeah. Oh, don't say that. Okay. And my esteemed co-host, the fabulous Jerry Riles. Jerry, how are you doing this weekend?
I'm doing fantastic, Lauren. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. Had a little, sabbatical, but I'm back.
Yeah, we missed you.
Thank you.
I mean, we just weren't ourselves. I can speak for Marvelous, no question about it. It was like, we were like twiddling our thumbs, wondering, what should we do now? I mean, Lauren's not here to pacify us and make sure we stay on track and keep things going. So
all of that.
You were certainly missed.
Thank you.
And it's good to see your beautiful. Well, I can't say beautiful smile, although I know you have a beautiful smile. But you're doing what you're supposed to be doing out there, and you got your mask on.
I do. And my girlfriend, she put on Facebook that somebody mask fished her. So a guy, she thought he was hot, and
Wait,
then she saw a guy in the grocery store. He had his mask on, and then she talked to him later on. He took the mask off, and he was like a whole totally different person. So
what does that mean? He was a totally different person.
He wasn't as cute as he was with the mask.
So she was attracted
Instead of
to his
catfish,
eyes.
she was mask.
Oh, he was unmasked.
Pretty much.
So the eyes got to her, but then
the rest was not a good look.
Yeah.
So don't get mask fished.
Yeah, that's interesting. Marvelous. Have you been mask fished or whatever? Huh?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The important thing is, and I got to say kudos, I don't care what our fearless leader, as far as this country is concerned, what he believes, what he stands for, what he supports, what he says. I don't care about it. I understand the feud that's going on, but I'm here to kick things off. The fastest hour in the sports conversation, Rewind Sports 60 WCPT 8:20 a.m. Sending out kudos to our friend of the program, a great friend of the program, the Honorable Mayor Lori Lightfoot. And, of course, hopefully we'll get a chance to get him on the Rewind Sports 60. Our governor, J.B. Pritzker.
Yeah, we need stuff.
Because the numbers, they're going down, Marvelous.
We're better here than Texas, Florida, South Carolina, and Arizona. They're going up. California.
Exactly. And those were, California, they were kind of on the fence early on. But Texas, Florida, those numbers are boom. Arizona, and they were the ones when the president say, "Hey, open up, get on out there, don't save the economy," and everybody's out there having a good time and hanging about. There's no coronavirus, there's nothing, and of course we see what's going on. So kudos to Mayor Lightfoot and of course the Governor Pritzker, because the numbers, Illinois, pat ourselves on the back. We're doing a good job.
So far, so good. And she still, they still have all the restrictions in place, 50% capacity, 25% capacity, and things like that. So I appreciate all of that. I really do.
We might be able to get 8,000 people at a ball game. 20% in the baseball stadiums. That will be interesting.
It certainly is going to be interesting. And you talked about it, Marvelous. We're looking forward to baseball hopefully, man, back in the air. Looks like we're moving forward.
Yeah, well, it's going to be like an expanded exhibition season almost.
Yeah, it will. I mean, 60 games on tap, and they're going to try to get, 60 games in 61, 62 days. And teams are already scheduled to report, as you talked about, July 1st, next Wednesday. We'll see some action taking place over on the south side and the north side. I know the Cubs were testing in their parking lot yesterday. There were pictures being tweeted out outside of Wrigley Field, and for the COVID-19 testing. So it's great to see and it's great to hear. I'm just a little bit skeptical, Lauren, because we still see cases around the world regarding COVID and players contracting, testing positive for this. And Rudy Gobert, who initially kicked everything off back in March when he was joking around, and then of course he was diagnosed with it. He just came out and said, "Hey, 3 months later, I still can't smell."
What?
Yeah. He said 3 months later, I still cannot smell. So this is definitely serious, and that's why I'm skeptical, Lauren, is the fact that I want to get back to as being as close to normal as possible. But as you well know, this virus, man, it doesn't care your race, your color, your age, your educational background. It cares nothing about that.
Right.
And I know that Major League Baseball, I know that the NBA, and they're already having problems as well. They're talking about, if we're going to continue to move forward. But the National Hockey League, we know our players here in Chicago are saying, wait a minute, pump the brakes a little bit. Yeah. The virus is still there. Yeah. And I would hate to see we get started and get underway and thinking everything is back to normal, and then we see cases popping up all over.
Yeah, well, the Blackhawks aren't going to be involved in the NHL. They're not part of the group that's going to be in the, when they resume. But they haven't gotten a date yet for that. They were just going to, have two hubs, and they were going to have some kind of schedule, but they haven't formalized that yet. So, and they have the problem with, Canada involved in all kinds of things about, that's going to be another issue.
Of course.
The Maple and the Blue Jays will have the same problem.
16 out of the 302 NBA players tested positive. Yeah. That's alarming to me. And it's not, in terms of percentage-wise, it's not huge, but it really speaks to the fact that, this is something that absolutely is still an issue.
Yeah.
And even though some of the phases that, have changed and things like that, the overall emphasis, now is not the time to let up. And I even have to be cautious of that myself in terms of switching up things a little bit. You need to be just as rigorous as you were several months ago now, so that, we don't end up going back to the phases like they've done in some of the other states.
Yeah. It seems like masks and social distancing will be the norm until when there's a vaccine.
Well, the important thing is I know that people are they're wearing their mask, and as far as I've gone to several grocery stores, I was at Home Depot earlier today, and I know you cannot enter into these establishments, these buildings without your mask on. And I know that there was one gentleman yesterday when I was out, he tried to enter, and they're like, no, you cannot come in. And he went back to his car reluctantly and picked up his mask, which was kind of interesting because he, in my opinion, it was like he was trying to slide past.
How do they stop him? Do they have a guard at the door?
Well, not a guard. It was just an employee checking everyone. And he told the gentleman, hey, you cannot enter without a mask on. And the guy turned around and went back to his car and picked it up. Let me tell you something. If you don't care about yourself, that's one thing. If you don't care about yourself, that's one thing. If you want to go play in traffic, feel free. Enjoy it. I'm not encouraging that, okay? I'm not suggesting that you do that. But if you want to bring harm to yourself, you have the right to do that. But to impose someone else's rights and their freedoms and their liberties to live, as free as a life as they possibly can, I mean, you have to respect that. As a fellow human being, as a fellow man, as a fellow woman, you should honor and respect that. And the only thing we're asking you to do is put on a damn mask.
That's it.
That's it. Just wear a mask.
And these people are, I can't breathe with it. And
that's ridiculous. And here's the other thing. I understand, and I'm happy that businesses around the state of Illinois are finally getting an opportunity to to have people come and dine in. And we were expected to have Chef Michael Bonner on of Let Us Entertain You, the great chef for Serenello's, Di Pesquero's over there in Northbrook and Pecorino's downtown. And unfortunately, he is busy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for us, he can't come on because they're busy.
Yeah.
They are busy, which is good.
It's good.
But it's interesting. There was this woman who simply she didn't get it. And I wish I had the audio for it. She was complaining because I guess there are bar owners who cannot serve people, right? And so they're losing business or they can't open. And this woman, they had a soundbite, ABC 7. I think Karen Jordan was anchoring during the time. At any rate, this woman said to the camera, she goes, listen, I can't even sit outside and have a drink. She goes, this is crazy. This is totally getting out of hand.
Well, here's the problem. When you're eating or drinking, it's kind of impossible to wear a mask.
Wait a minute. Wait, hang on here.
What are you going to do, put a hole in the mask?
Hang on here. This woman said, hey, wait a minute. I can't even sit outside and have a drink. This is crazy. It's getting out of hand. Hello?
Hello? Well, I mean, she doesn't.
She said it's getting out of hand because she can't sit out and have a cocktail.
You mean
People are losing
at a bar?
In a bar.
Okay.
You're right. You're right, Marcus.
Go ahead.
You're right. Exactly. I said, hey, lady. I'm yelling at the television. I say, hey, lady. Hey, lady. I go,
Go
listen.
home.
Yeah. Go home. Go to the liquor barn. I don't know where you live, but go to the liquor barn in Wheeling. Go to the liquor barn in Niles. Get yourself whatever you want. You want a margarita? Get a margarita. You want some champagne? Get champagne.
She wanted some hard liquor.
Whatever. She can have whatever hard liquor she wants. Anything she wants, they're going to provide her at the liquor barn, Niles and Wheeling. And then what you need to do, young lady, it's hot as hell out there. It's 90 degrees outside. But I'm sure you have a nice deck. I'm sure you do. Just get your
Even
little
if she
cocktail.
doesn't have a deck, she's got a sidewalk.
Sit in the garage.
She got a chair.
Whatever.
She's going out there and work it out.
Going out there and sit and slip. That's all you have to do. This is getting out of hand. People are dying left and right, and she's talking about this getting out of hand because she can't go have a cocktail.
Ridiculous.
Are you kidding me?
And people are getting sick. We know someone who got sick. They had a domestic violence event, and she was rushed to the hospital. The family couldn't even go there to see her.
Right.
This stuff is serious. It has
really
implications that reach far above and beyond the fact that you can't have a drink. People can't even see their loved ones when they're in a hospital if somebody gets sick or something like this.
Yeah.
This is
bury
serious.
them, or even bury them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I really want people to understand and take a step back, and stop thinking about yourself. Stop thinking about yourself and think about your neighbor.
Or your parents, or your grandparents, or your uncle. I mean, you know some elderly
It's
people.
real.
You know some unhealthy people.
It's real.
I mean, then schools are apparently going to open, Pritzker says, in Illinois.
Well, schools need to open, honey.
Yeah.
I'm tired of my child.
I know. Well,
Open those schools.
Okay.
I'm
Take it
sorry.
easy.
Then the child will bring the disease onto you.
No.
Take it easy. Take it easy.
Open those schools back up. I'm sorry.
It is the fastest hour in sports conversation. This is the Rewind Sports 60 on WCPT 820 AM. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. The marvelous one, Dan Marvin, of course, the lovely, talented, outstanding. She's the one, the only. She's Lauren Cox. And on our TR60 hotline, we're pleased and honored to have this gentleman join us to talk a little bit about baseball. And he is definitely, if not the best in the country, he's in the top two, I would imagine. But ladies and gentlemen, he does a fantastic job. USA Today Sports, Major League Baseball columnist, Intercom Radio Sports Insider, MLB Network Insider, BBWAA, Baseball Writers Association of America, Arizona Chapter Chairman, Hall of Fame voter. He is the one. He's the only. On our TR60 hotline, he's Bob Nightingale joining us on the program. Bob, how are you?
Yeah, doing well. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so very much for taking some time out of your busy schedule, man. And hey, man, listen, a lot of us baseball purists are on the edge of our seats, and we're hoping, we're itching for a scratch, and we're saying, hey, is it really, really true? I don't know about you, Bob. You've been closely following this thing since it all started, but I know many of us in the media and, of course, fans here in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area, we have the Great American Amusement Park. And I think they have the roller coaster like the Batman or the Superman or something like that. Over the past few months, since the pandemic has hit us, and everything else that's transpired, it's like we've been on a roller coaster following this storyline as far as Major League Baseball is concerned, and we finally, I believe, see the light at the end of the tunnel. We get an opportunity to see some baseball coming up, man. How has it been for you covering this, and do you see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as baseball resuming to some sort of normalcy?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the camp starts July 3rd, and you're talking about 16 guys testing positive in the NBA. That's just out of the 302 guys, in camp. In baseball, you're talking about closer to 1,800 guys show up. So I think MLB has braced themselves, for about 100 positive tests. We'll see what happens. So they're keeping their fingers crossed, everything else, and get through a 60-game season. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I mean, here's the NBA, playing in a bubble, and they're worried about it. And here's baseball, playing in a, different cities throughout the country and trying to get a semblance of normalcy.
Hi, Bob. Lauren Cox here. You wrote in one of your USA Today articles that if there's no season, it's going to set the sports back, talking about the MLB, decades. Can you speak to what the implications could have possibly been if there was indeed no season and, the two sides couldn't come together and decide to play as looks like that they've done?
Yeah, well, if there was no season because of the pandemic, okay, people couldn't understand that. If there was no season just because of a salary dispute, people would have been so furious. Especially what's going on in the country, over 40 million Americans unemployed, pandemic and everything else, the death rates. People have been so disgusted. And I think they would have turned their back to baseball for decades. I really do. I mean, it was the McGuire-Sosa home run race that kind of saved baseball in 1998, 4 years after the strike. This time, there was nothing that was going to save it. So, yeah, it would have been a nightmare. I mean, already, NFL passed up baseball, years ago. NBA's passed up baseball now. Better be careful, or the NHL's going to pass it up.
You know what, Bob? In saying that, it was the sport itself and the owners in particular behind the eight ball, so to speak, because of what's happened in the past regarding the sport. And is this kind of like saying, hey, listen, we have to do something to try to keep the fan interest because of everything you just mentioned with the other sports surpassing, and not to mention, you talk about gaming. The popularity has really skyrocketed in this country and around the world. Did baseball and the owners feel that we have to put something out there to save this game, or else we may never recover?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were hoping to get, started around July 4th weekend. And even if they had agreement a month ago, I don't think that would have happened. Not with the, with the pandemic, raising still, particularly in the Sun Belt, say. So, but yeah, we still have the stage themselves. It'll be the first major sport back, on July 23rd that night, and then we'll see. They wanted to have broadcast enhancements. They're going to pay the players about $5,000 a game. Whoever was willing to get mic'd up, during game and have interaction with each other, that sort of thing. So they got to, you got to do something here. I think the average age of baseball fan for national TV games the last year was 56 years old. They need to drop that number down.
Hey Bob, this is Dan Marver here in the studio. How you doing? I was looking at the rules they're going to have this year. What do you think about the universal designated hitter and a runner on second base to start the extra innings? I guess that's going to be a little different, isn't it?
Yeah, big time. I mean, National League's never had a DH, so this is the first time. And, we were talking about 20 interleague games, with the Cubs and White Sox. It's like you had to have a DH. Too many games doing that. So at least, one set of rules. And the runner on second base, they started that in the minor leagues a couple of years ago. And baseball's wanting to do it. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, maybe it'll be around for a long time. I'm sure the baseball purists hate it, but certainly it gives a different, different look in extra innings. Even the players. I remember talking to a few Cub players last spring, and they said, let's be honest about it. Of the four major sports, we got the most boring overtime there is. When the ninth inning is over, fans head toward the exits, and everybody's moaning and complaining about, oh no, I guess sit here another inning. Well, it's not like that in the other sports.
Yeah, and they're also going to maybe have expanded playoffs. And I think you might be able to get a team with like 25 wins to make it in.
Yeah, they were hoping to do that. They reached agreement. Now, Rob Manfred mandated that season. So unless something happens here in the next, 3-4 weeks, it's going to go back to the 10-game playoff format. So we'll still have that sudden death wild card.
We're on with the great Bob Nightingale, USA Today Sports, Major League Baseball columnist, covering the MLB. Hey, Bob, question is, and we talked about the numbers as far as the pandemic is concerned and the possibility of testing positive for COVID-19. Are you skeptical that some of these players might, at the last minute get cold feet and say, hey, you know what? Because there are players around them, not only in baseball, but of course in basketball and football. They're saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to put myself in jeopardy because I don't want to jeopardize my family. I don't want to try to see this thing through. How much effect will that have on the game and teams respectively moving forward when players are questioning what's going on and they have the option to get out of this thing if they don't feel safe?
And be paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have the same number as we have in NBA. Just, in NBA, their season's pretty much over. And so, this is a brand new season. Everybody's got a chance in 60 games. So I think it might be tough for these guys to look their teammates in their eyes and say, hey, I'm not playing. It's not worth it for me. Then again, if you're a high-risk candidate and there's only a number of guys out there, you get paid if you don't play. But I just think there might be too much peer pressure on these guys just to say I'm not doing it.
So let's look at our crystal ball and let's go, hey, you know what? We're going to be playing 60 games this year. Maybe they'll get some fans out at the ballpark. I know the Cubs and, the Ricketts, they're trying to see what they can do. I understand they're going to try to open up the rooftops and everything. But let's just say in a perfect world, and we're like, hey, you know what? We got 60 games on tap. It's not a marathon now, 162 games. It's a sprint.
It's 30 at home.
and everyone's, we know that the front runners as far as their projections were concerned, it was the Dodgers and the Yankees. But now it's an open field. How do we look from a Chicago perspective when you look at what the White Sox have put together? A fabulous young team, and especially their pitching core or their pitching staff. And then you look over what's going on the north side. Is it far-fetched for Cub fans, Sox fans to say, hey, you know what? In this shortened season, we can make the playoffs, and who knows? Anything can happen. We're not going to have a crosstown series. I know that's not going to happen, Bob. But in a perfect world, how do you see things unfolding for the season?
Well, I would think the teams that have veteran players that have been through this before, like the Cubs, would have advantage over a lot of teams just because they have a lot of young players. I worry about that with the White Sox. I mean, they were up and coming. The Minnesota Twins were heavy favorites in a 162-game season, so this will help the White Sox. But they just may be a little too on the young side, not having gone through this before, where I think a short season benefits the Cubs. And both teams are in the right region because there's no superpowers in the Central like there is in the West and East, and no huge teams with huge payrolls.
Speaking of the Cubs, I wanted to ask you, Bob, about the now deleted tweet where you talked about the Cubs draft Edward Howard, yes, showing action instead of hollow words. When you wrote that tweet, what did you mean by that?
I was talking to Theo Epstein, the Cubs president, the day before, and he says, watch the draft. We're going to surprise you. I also talked to Ed Howard's agent and said, hey, I think they're going to draft your guy. He says, I just got the phone this afternoon. We're keeping our fingers crossed. So what I simply meant was, hey, they want to make a difference. They want to make a difference in the community. They drafted Ed Howard, who's a very good ball player, and I grew up in Chicago. I certainly didn't mean to demean Ed Howard by any ways. So I think people took it the wrong way. And so I ended up deleting it, a few hours later. Like, my God. So that's all I meant by it was, okay, cool on the Cubs to do that.
Right. Were you surprised? Obviously, it was like strong backlash by it. Were you really surprised by that? Because when I read the tweet, I'm like, I would love to ask him what he meant by it. Well, and obviously, people took it a certain way.
Yeah, I was stunned by the reaction. I don't really look at the reaction in tweets. It was actually, my son told me about it. And he said, read. And he goes, hey, Dad, your tweet. This is wrong reaction. And I said, what do you mean? And I was just stunned by it. And that's all he meant was, cooling the Cubs, not to just, say we're going to do things and do that. And
right.
Webster had come out strong and said, hey, I can look myself in the mirror. I'm hiring too many people that look like me. And so, I enjoyed it. I love the fact you said that, And I shared, a story with Theo. It's like, everything's coming out now. Where was everybody the last, you say 400 years, but the last 20 or 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So my family's black. We had to move our apartment complex 3 times in one spring because they wouldn't let my kids swim in the pool.
Mm.
This is in Vero Beach, Florida. And we're only talking about the 90s, not talking about the 1940 or something like that. So, I knew all about the ad, and I was excited about it. But that's all I meant by it. So, I was stunned people took it a different way.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about social media, Bob, is that, you've been covering, the game for so many years, and you know how athletes react and have reacted in the past when they'll give you a quote and then they'll see it the next day and they'll hear it and go, hey, wait a minute, that's not what I said. That's not. And so when you look at social media, it's a field day and people take it any way that they interpret it, even though you didn't necessarily mean it that way. And your words can certainly and definitely turn against you depending on, the audience. And unfortunately, the world is your audience, and it's hard to, satisfy the masses.
Yeah, and, baseball is a very conservative sport. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
One guy in baseball, kneel down, Bruce Maxwell, a couple of years ago. Nobody else joined him. But very conservative sport. So, people are always been careful what they say and do. A lot of guys, really the only people I've spoken out, regularly is a Dusty Baker, a Dave Stewart, a Gary Sheffield when he played. A lot of guys were afraid to speak out. Now everybody's kind of coming out, but guys like that are saying, hey, where were you before when I was speaking out, not to even have my back? So, people are now, coming out. But, they should have come out a long time beforehand. Yeah,
it certainly should have come out a long time beforehand. And it's unfortunately Bob Nightingale, USA Today, covering Major League Baseball, talking about the return of the shortened season 2020, 60 games on tap. And we're looking forward. Hopefully we can get everything underway and get started. We appreciate you taking some time out on this Sunday to join us to talk about what's going on in the sport of baseball. One thing I want to ask you, you mentioned, Dusty Baker and some of the other players, managers of color who spoke out and said, hey, you know what, where have you guys been? It's interesting because I was fortunate and blessed enough to, follow the Cubs and follow the White Sox, but in particular during Barry Bonds, when his tear was taking place back in, 98 and 2000, all of that with the home runs and everything. And I recall, it's so vivid, and I'm sure you're aware of it as well, but Barry Bonds didn't like the media so much, right?
Right, correct.
Why, first of all, let me hear you. Why you think that, or maybe but why do you believe he did not like dealing with the media at all?
That was his persona. I always got along very well with him. We went to the same school in Arizona State and knew one of the Pittsburgh Pirates days. And I think you need that edge. I remember covering the one stint the San Diego Padres, and Tony Gwynn, who was like one of the most likable guys you'll ever meet in any sport, said, hey, Barry, just try to be nice to the media, try to be nice to other opponents on the field. It's going to make your life so much easier. And he goes, okay, good advice. And then 2-3 weeks later, he came back and said, Tony, I tried it. I can't do it. I got to be this type of guy just to have that edge. So that was him. I think that's what helped make him, the greatest home run hitter of all time.
Well, it's interesting that you share that story because, yeah, he it was his demeanor. There's no question about it. But we've heard stories, or at least I've heard some stories, that one reason he didn't take too kindly to the media was the fact that his father, Bobby Bonds, you talk about the legends and Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and the likes of all who came up through the ranks when you talk about, black ball players playing in the 60s and the early 70s and the type of treatment that they experienced. And with his, relationship with all of these former African-American ball players coming up, during the civil rights movement and even before that, he heard of the horror stories and he felt that, I believe he felt upon himself that, I'm going to do my talking with the bat, but I'm not going to support the media because you guys, and when I say you guys, the white media didn't treat us kindly as far as the black ball players who led the way or paved the way for him. And so he's like, I don't have to talk to the media. I don't care about that because I've seen him and you've seen him and I've heard him. And he is a great guy because I talked to him. I have never had a problem with him. But I know I've seen him address the other media corps, the white media, and he literally would rip their heads off with expletives flying left and right. And I believe it was partly due for the fact that he felt he needed to pay back what was happening or what happened to those former ball players who came before him. And that was his position throughout his illustrious career. And he has later come on after retirement and say, hey, you know what? I wish I'd handled things differently.
Yeah, it might have been more with his dad, Bobby Bonds. Bobby Bonds, I don't think he had a good relationship with the media. So, Barry grew up in the clubhouses. I think he saw that. Obviously Barry came up and they, that's what, Dusty Baker knew that family well from Riverside. And obviously because of Bobby Bonds, had plenty of money and everything else. And I don't think he suffered any treatment. Arizona State, very liberal school, no problems. But I think it might have just been, this is what my dad thought of me. I'm going to go along with this way too. And I've seen him, act that way toward no matter what color the media was. But that was just him. He needed to have a chip on his shoulder. He needed to have that edge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's too bad people to get to know him because he was, one of the most brilliant minds I've ever been around. I mean, he could be a manager tomorrow if he wanted to be.
Yeah.
But just, he's like, dealing with guys. You understand why they can't hit like how he hit, that sort of thing. Just a different guy. Not a guy you want on your team, but a guy that was a loner in the clubhouse.
Yeah, he was, from my perspective, having an opportunity to cover him, watch him, in the field, and of course in the clubhouse. I mean, I thought he was an outstanding guy. So the question now remains, with everything that's transpired in this country as far as Black Lives Matter, the movement is concerned, and, the systemic racism that has been taking place for, centuries, we're hoping that everyone's moving forward, and we've seen what happened in NASCAR with the Confederate flag being removed. We see the removal of statues all over the country. We see, not only here in the United States, but, everyone's galvanizing toward making a difference. And we heard about Theo Epstein to say, hey, you know what? I got to look at myself because I have only hired people that look like me, and I need to step outside of myself and try to get the best people to come be a part of this organization, meaning the Chicago Cubs. But a lot of Cub fans are wondering, will the first step be to accept Sammy Sosa back into the family? Will that ever happen in your mind, Bob Nightingale? Will the Cubs open up their doors and invite Sammy Sosa back in?
They should. I mean, Sammy Sosa, he made that franchise so much money, and that team was terrible. And everybody came to the ballpark to watch him hit home runs. That home run race with him and McGuire for regular season games was the coolest thing I've ever seen. It was a blast covering these guys. had, knew what they were up to. I mean, I knew that they were juiced, but it didn't matter. It really didn't. And I think it's, kind of ludicrous for the Cubs to say, well, we'll invite him back if he says what happened, what he did. Hey, Sammy Sosa testified in front of Congress. If Sammy Sosa says, like, it comes out and says, yeah, I was doing PEDs along with, half of baseball, someone from Congress can say, you know what? Hey, we'll get you right now for perjury. So there's no way in the world he could do that.
Right.
And it was wild. It was a wild, wild west. There's so many guys in the Hall of Fame, that have done PEDs. They just weren't as great as some of these other guys. So I vote for Sammy Sosa every year. Bonds, Clemens, what have you. That's what it was. It's like you drive along the freeway. There's going to be no cops around for 100 miles. You're not going 55 miles an hour.
The great Ozzie Guillen, 2005 manager of your World Series Chicago White Sox, say, hey, man, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. He didn't actually say it like that because you barely could understand what he was saying. But in essence, he was saying, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And those, hey, you know what? It's like baseball turned a deaf ear and a blind eye during that steroid era again to try to save the sport because fans were going the other way. And I'm hoping, Bob, that we can get through a 60-game shortened season here, and I hope the fans will come back. But it's a lot to ask fans after so much that they've endured over the years with this sport to once again to sit down in front of their tubes, or who knows if they're going to get an opportunity to go out to the ballparks, but to spend 3.5 hours of their day, watching baseball,
wearing a mask.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have fans. I really don't. I mean, I remember the Texas governor said, oh, yeah, we'll have fans, 50% capacity. Now that you shut down the restaurants and bars. So you just never know with the pandemic. I'd be a little surprised if we have fans at all, at least during the regular season. So they better, be entertaining on TV. At least the games count a lot more. In that 60-game season, so every game counts the same as 2.7, like a regular season. So I think that will keep more people interested, just because of the urgency of it.
Now, because you're a member of the Baseball Writers Association of America, you'll have an opportunity to actually go to the games and cover in the press box. I know they're just going to. It's not going to be open to the mainstream media, so to speak. It's only, I guess, respective media people who are going to get an opportunity to cover these games. Is that right?
Yeah, they're going to limit the media availability to 35 people in the press box. And then, we won't be close to a player. They're going to do Zoom calls with a manager and a player before a game, manager and, whatever players, play a role in the win or loss after a game. And that's it. So, there won't be much more access than just sitting home on your living room couch and watching a game on TV.
Yeah. So are you guys going to be tested every single day going to the ballpark, or how's that supposed to work? What have you found out?
No, we won't be tested. They'll take their temperature. So I think if you're over 100.4, almost like going to a doctor's office, you're not allowed in. So anything less, you're allowed in. But yeah, so the media won't be undergoing COVID tests or anything like that. The players will be every other day. Yeah. Well, hey, man, we appreciate you taking some time out. Thank you so very much. You do fantastic work, and it's great to have an opportunity to chat with you, man. And we'll certainly continue to follow you. And if anything else develops, we'll be blowing up your phone, my man. All right, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob, thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Bob Nightingale from USA Today joining us on the Rewind Sports 60 on our TR60 hotline, talking MLB shortened season. I hope the Cubs, and I hope they're listening, but and they are, I hope the Cubs, let bygones be bygones and
Bring Sammy back.
We
got to find Sammy first, because this new guy, that don't look like Sammy Sosa to me.
Stop it. Stop it.
Where's Sammy?
Sammy,
The
stop
real
it.
one.
Yeah, because think about it, Marvelous. You recall this. You probably were in the stands when all this stuff was taking place, because you're not a season ticket holder. You just have tickets.
Partial,
But I remember this clear as day. The question in '98 with the race: did Sammy hit a homer That was the first question. And the second one was, did the Cubs win? That was it. Well, nobody cared. Here in Chicago, they didn't care about McGwire.
Yeah.
They said, did Sammy hit a home run? And did the Cubs win?
Well, at the end, they were battling for the number one spot. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely correct. It's interesting too when you talk about people taking their temperatures taken. I think you could beat that with a few Tylenols.
Well, that's what they were saying. That's what they were saying.
And my other concern is that think of Dusty Baker. He's 71 years old. They have managers that are probably going to be in the risk category, such as Dusty.
Yeah, I mean, they will be. So, I mean, baseball is going to test these guys out. In the Cubs, we talked about it to start the show. They had, I think, 30 players in the parking lot over at Wrigley Field this weekend testing them because they're, coming back to, the friendly confines. And, of course, the White Sox are doing the same thing over at Guaranteed Rate Field. But they have to take every precaution as they possibly can to make sure that these guys are as healthy and as safe as they possibly can be. Because I know, and just like this country, nobody wants a setback.
I know. Well, the NBA is going to be all in one place. That's the other thing. As Bob mentioned, in Orlando, here they're going to be actually moving around St. Louis, Cincinnati, Chicago.
Right.
So that's going to be another issue.
Yeah.
And at least in the Central, they don't go too far. But look at the West. They have the Texas teams with Seattle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, we certainly do. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of this develops. But I am looking forward to, hopefully getting an opportunity to see some semblance of baseball.
Black Lives Matter. Say it. Can't you say it? Black Lives Matter. We should be saying it every day. It's not political. This is not a political statement. It's a human rights statement. It's a fairness statement. Over the last couple months, I have had an opportunity to see more, to listen more, to think more, and to understand at a deeper level. So have you. Yeah, so have you. And do we not see the problem, the disease, the plague that has been with our country for 4 centuries? Do we not see systemic racism and social injustice? Come on. We all see that. It's manifested in so many ways. Criminal justice, the killings that we have seen and we haven't seen, and the denial of economic opportunities for our black community, educational opportunities, health care. It's manifested in so many ways and has been there for 4 centuries. We see that. And what we do when we see it, we talk, all right? But we turn the other way. We don't solve the problem. The problem will not be solved, and no problem is solved unless you acknowledge the problem. Acknowledge it. If you acknowledge it, you have the duty to solve it. We as a country have the duty to solve this problem. When I was a cadet at West Point, and the prayer is still there's a cadet prayer. In the cadet prayer, one of the segments of the prayer says, Lord, help me choose the harder right. Help me choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. We as a country have chosen the easier wrong for 4 centuries. It is time to choose the harder right. It is time to end systemic racism and social injustice. It's time. Black Lives Matter.
Coach Mike Krzyzewski, the head basketball coach for the Duke Blue Devils, in a comment on his social media platform about a day or two ago addressing Black Lives Matter, the movement, and the responsibility of all of us living in this great country, that there's a problem, and it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be corrected, and it needs to start, and I don't know if he necessarily said this, Lauren Cox, but it needs to start in the white community. Lauren Cox, Dan Marvelous Marver. Lauren, your thoughts on the comments of Coach K?
I truly appreciated his comments. I think he summed it up. It was a variety of things that he said that really touched me when he said, do we not see the problem? That's the first thing, and I think, as you were saying, he was speaking to, his, the Caucasian community, essentially saying, there is a problem. And he talked about how it's manifested: criminal justice, the killings, the economic opportunities, the educational opportunities, healthcare. I mean, Coach K laid it all out, and then he spoke about this being a problem for 4 decades in terms of the 400 years, and so
4 centuries.
4 centuries. I'm sorry. So the way he summed it all up, it was just a compelling case, an impassionate plea, and I would like to see other coaches and other people in his same demographic and area and with his same influence step up and speak out and continuously talk about how people need to see that it's a problem. And if more coaches and more people in his position would step up and speak about it like he did, I think that is where the change comes from.
Well,
people coming out and saying it when they have the influence where, the average person that might not even think about it will listen to Coach K and say, okay, well, maybe. So I applaud him for that.
No, I certainly applaud him as well. And I want to take it a step further, Lauren and Marvelous. I applaud him just as you to say it. But the great actor, Matthew McConaughey, is that how you say it? Matthew McConaughey? Yeah. He was the first white man that I heard say this. And we have a bite, but it's a bit lengthy. But he said, in a nutshell, as a white man, what can I do to help? He said, as a white man, what can I do to help? And I think it's not only to recognize it, identify it, and verbalize it, but you have to put action behind it. Because a lot of people say, you can make your mouth say anything.
Right.
We're very good at that as humans. We can make our mouth say anything. But it's the actions that you put behind those words and the statements that you blurt out there. And that's what I need to see, Marvelous.
Yeah.
I need to see action behind these words. And to me, that's only one way you're going to begin to see some sort of change in this country, in this world.
Okay, well, I agree with that. I mean, as one person, I don't know exactly what one person can do, but government can do things. And look at Senator Tim Scott. I think it's shameful that his bill that he put forward in the Congress is not going to go through. It's for police reform, and I mean that's terrible. And the other side, you can get political. I mean, Pelosi saying that the Republicans are guilty of killing George is also ridiculous. So it looks like nothing's going to get done in Congress. Maybe it should be done at the local level.
Well, here's the deal.
The mayors can do stuff.
Yeah,
it's not going to be done by you and me. Is my point.
But that's not.
It's not going to be done by the mob either.
Yeah, well, it depends on what mob you're talking about. But here's the deal.
Or don't.
Here's the deal. In my opinion, I think that's the wrong road to go down when you talk about politics regarding this movement, because it has nothing, in my opinion, to do with politics. Politics is a way to control the masses to get them to do what you want them to do. This movement is about people. It's about everyone. And I disagree with you when you said that it's not one person can't make a difference. Really, one person made a difference, and that's Colin Kaepernick 4 years ago in 2016 during a preseason game where he took a knee. He sat down first, and then he took a knee and made a statement. He was the only person that stood up for those who were being oppressed or felt injustices and the inequalities as far as the urban communities were concerned around this country. So one person certainly can make a difference.
Right.
And that's why I said it's important to make these statements, identify with what's going on, and verbalize it. But it's more important, you're going to get more impact from the actions of moving forward. But when you talk about politicizing it, I think that's the wrong avenue. And politicians, I mean, they're kind of at fault, but I give them somewhat of a pass because that's what they do.
Right.
They're professional politicians, and that's what they do.
But I'm saying Colin Kaepernick took a knee, but what did that accomplish? One person. Okay.
What did it accomplish?
Yeah, what does it accomplish?
It's an entire movement across the entire world, Marvelous.
Has it changed anything?
Well, it's changed a lot. And the reason it's changed a lot, Marvelous, is the fact that it's opened up the eyes of many who certainly had on blinders and had on rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, we've had conversations that would have never, ever, ever in life taken place because of what he said. He has this Know Your Rights campaign, his Know Your Rights charity, where he's educating the masses about knowing their rights and just understanding what this whole police brutality thing looks like. The eyes and ears that he brought on this topic and this subject, we will never be able to quantify what he did in terms of having these discussions. We're discussing it right now, and how many countless times we've discussed it before. And speaking of Colin Kaepernick, they're saying there's a lot of NFL rumors swirling around right now that a lot of teams are interested in him.
Yeah, of course.
And there's, swirling around his inner circle. Los Angeles Chargers coach Anthony Lynn said Kaepernick is on the team's workout list. So, he had that situation last year that kind of went south real quick. But, of course, now they're saying that he possibly may get an opportunity again, which he deserves.
Yeah, he certainly deserves. You got something for us, Marvelous?
I just wanted to mention this portion of the Rewind Sports 60 is sponsored by Serenello's Ristorante Italiano. Yeah. Even though the chef couldn't be with us today. As part of our ongoing effort to slow the community transmission of COVID-19, we are committed to reopen. Serenello's is open to provide delivery and carry-out options. Let us come to you, get your favorite dishes delivered in a flash, curbside menu, carry-out menus, order delivery. Give Serenello's a call today at 847-777-6878. I think they're open inside now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
They're located at 601 North Milwaukee Avenue in Wheeling. Our buddy, tells Chef Michael Bonner and his team, the Rewind Sports 60, encourage you to support local by ordering online. Remember to stay safe and practice social distancing.
Yeah, definitely. Chef Michael Bonner was expected to join us, but he's busy. He's busy. They're feeding folks over there. If you haven't had an opportunity to get some Sunday meal inside your gut, go on over to Serenello's, located in Wheeling, right there on the corner of Lake Cook Road and Milwaukee Avenue. Lauren, what do you got for us?
I'm just, again, wanting to see how everything is going to pan out with the NBA starting back as well. It was interesting to me that some of the players decided to opt out of going into the quote-unquote Disney bubble. Avery Bradley, specifically in LA, said, he has a child that has some respiratory issues. And so he made the difficult decision to sit out and possibly not get a ring because of the COVID-19 and the risk for that. So I just wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about the fact that some of these players, he's not the only one, decided to forego their opportunities and forego the season, the remainder of the season, as a specific health concern for their families.
You said it right there. It's a health concern. God bless them. I'm not going to put anything above my family and our health. Because let me tell you something. And Marvelous, maybe you can attest to it as well. Lauren, believe it or not, I'm not as vibrant and active as I used to be, right?
Really?
No.
So health.
No way.
Your health. There's no substitute for health.
Okay.
Right.
There's none.
Exactly.
So I commend these players that say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to jeopardize my health, my family, or anything like that. I commend them. Anything else before we get out of here?
Well, everybody stay safe and have a good week. And
enjoy this weather.
And then we're going to get sports soon.
There you go. Thanks to our guest, Bob Nightingale, USA Today, MLB columnist covering the baseball world, and hopefully we'll get to see some baseball. We want to say real quick, hopefully our prayers are out to one of our colleagues, Gabe Salgado, who is tested positive for COVID, and he and his wife are self-quarantining, so we hope that they're okay and they can get through this. Gabe was just coming off of a knee surgery, and he was going through therapy, and that's how he contracted the virus. So, Gabe, if you're listening, our prayers are with you and your wife and your family.
Speedy recovery.
Speedy recovery. We look forward to seeing you back here. It's another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. Thanks to our producer, Devin Tingle. And, of course, the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Lauren Cox, we love you. You're the best in the business. And Q, the 17th letter of the alphabet. We miss you, buddy. Get back in here, but stay safe, man. We will definitely be in contact. You miss any portion of the broadcast, make sure you check us out on YouTube, Facebook, the RewindSports60.com, and on Wednesdays, Comcast at Channel 17, Channel 19, and Channel 35 in the northern suburbs. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the week, and we'll see you on television on Wednesday. Take care, everybody.
The Rewind Sports60.com. The Rewind Sports60.com. The Rewind Sports60.com. Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. The Rewind Sports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports60.
To the ball game, Hall of Famer Andre Dawson.
All right. Let's hear it from the greatest fans ever. On three. 1, 2, 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back Forest Root. Root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Hey, let's get some runs. Thank you.